Are you certain that St. Petersburg was built by a great Russian Tsar and not by a foreign Gauleiter who erased our authentic history? What if the real Peter Romanov ended his days in a damp basement of the Bastille while his double broke Russia across his knee? History isn't just a collection of boring dates, it's a global conspiracy whose tracks lead straight to the foot of the throne. In August 1698, a man entered Moscow whom even his own mother did not recognize. During the 18 months of the Grand Embassy, the Tsar didn't just change his wardrobe, he returned with a completely different appearance, foreign habits, and a terrifying streak of cruelty. Official textbooks paint the image of a progressive reformer, but the popular rumors of that time were unanimous. An impostor had arrived from Europe. The one who left as a young Orthodox sovereign returned as an haggard man with the mannerisms of a German sailor and a hatred for everything Russian. We are used to calling this modernization, but what if it was the most massive special operation in history to replace a national leader? Yet the most chilling details aren't found in the edicts about shaving beards. The real horror begins when you compare the physiological evidence. Where did the monarch's famous facial wart vanish to? And why did a 25-year-old grown man suddenly grow several centimeters taller? Brace yourselves. We are about to break down the first set of these frightening metamorphoses. The 25-year-old athlete in a traditional kosovorotka left, but a haggard 40-year-old man in a wig returned. The official version blames labor at the shipyards, but doctors are skeptical. The facial structure and height of a grown man do not change so radically in just 18 months. Eyewitnesses were in shock. The young Peter had a prominent wart near his nose, yet the man who returned in 1698 had clear skin, though it was marked by deep wrinkles. The physiology was equally haunting. The Tsar had become even taller, even though growth plates typically close by age 25. The new sovereign developed a strange nervous tic, as if a double was straining with all his might to imitate the original. But appearance is merely the shell. Horror gripped those closest to him when Peter spoke. The Tsar brought back habits from Europe that he had previously considered diabolical, and he completely forgot the traditions instilled in him since childhood. How could a man turn into his own opposite in just 18 months? He returned soaked in tobacco smoke, which he had previously considered a devil's potion. It was as if a rowdy German sailor had possessed the body of the Russian autocrat. A man arrived from Europe who began to demonstratively trample on everything he had held sacred just 18 months prior. The eccentricities of the new Peter bordered on madness. Instead of bowing to the shrines of the Kremlin, he rushed to the German quarter to see his mistress. The once devout Tsar stopped observing fasts and began to grow confused during church services. But something else was even more terrifying: his language. Contemporaries whispered about a thick accent and an abundance of Dutch words. The sovereign's letters became filled with wild grammatical errors, uncharacteristic of a man with a palace education. It was as if he were relearning how to be Russian while secretly loathing everything around him. His passion for Western assemblies looked like a native element to which he had finally returned. Behavior was merely the tip of the iceberg. His animalistic cruelty was shocking. During the Streltsy uprising, Peter didn't just order the executions, he personally picked up an axe. Would a true anointed of God, raised in the traditions of mercy, personally chop off the heads of his subjects while competing with the executioners? The first thing the false Peter did was cold-bloodedly dispose of his legitimate wife. Eudoxia Lopukina knew the real Tsar down to every birthmark, so her forced tonsure into a convent just a month after the embassy's return looked like a tactical purge. A witness capable of exposing the outsider was dangerous to the impostor. Significantly, Peter did not even meet with her in person. The crackdown also extended to his son, Tsarevich Alexei. His death in the Peter and Paul fortress shocked contemporaries. Could a biological father truly torture his only heir? Or was it the calculation of an occupier destroying the blood of the true Romanovs for the sake of a new dynasty? The people whispered openly, "The Tsar is not real." Rumors that the true sovereign was languishing in captivity spread across the country. And here, a chilling trail emerges, leading into the heart of Europe. A striking coincidence of dates points to a connection between this story and the mysterious prisoner in the Iron Mask, whose appearance in the Bastille strangely coincided with the period of the Grand Embassy. Could it be that the substitution occurred as early as the cradle? The people whispered that Queen Natalia had given birth to a girl, and fearing her husband's wrath, swapped the infant for a German boy from the Kukui settlement. Thus, a foundling without a single drop of Russian blood allegedly ended up on the throne. In the eyes of the public, this German trace explained everything: the passion for foreign customs, the hatred for beards, and the extraordinary physical strength uncharacteristic of the Romanovs. Rumors claimed that his mother revealed this secret to Peter before her death, after which he completely went off the rails, realizing he was an outsider. Historians dismiss this as nonsense, but the Tsar's pull toward the German quarter and Western regiments was suspiciously strong. If a childhood swap seems like a fairy tale, the second version resembles a spy thriller. We are talking about the mysterious prisoner in the Iron Mask. A striking coincidence of dates makes one's blood run cold. While one Peter was entering Moscow, another was being bricked up forever in a stone cell of the Bastille. September 1698. As the false Peter returns to Russia, a mysterious masked prisoner appears in the Bastille. His name is a secret guarded more strictly than the treasury of Louis XIV. Could the true Tsar have been languishing in a stone cell while his Antichrist double broke the backbone of a great nation? The coincidence of dates is perfect. Peter leaves Europe, and immediately a man whose identity has been erased is thrown behind bars. Legend has it that the Europeans abducted the real Tsar during the embassy, realizing that this giant was impossible to negotiate with. In his place, they prepared a puppet trained in maritime affairs to turn Russia into a raw material appendage. The real Peter, capable of bending silver rubles with his bare hands, was too dangerous. They decided to bury him alive under a mask so that no one would recognize his facial features. He died in 1703 without uttering a single word, while the impostor in Russia was busy introducing taxes on bathhouses and coffins. But what about Peter's unique anatomy? One can fake manners and learn a language, but how do you find a double 2 meters tall with a tiny size 38 foot? This is a physiological dead end that either shatters the conspiracy theory or confirms it once and for all. Standing at 204 centimeters tall, yet wearing a size 38 shoe. Peter was a physiological absurdity. Where could the 17th century European secret services have found such a unique double? This isn't just luck, it's a statistical miracle. Finding a giant with such childlike feet is practically impossible. Peter's anthropometry is the skeptic's ultimate trump card. He was a true Gulliver in an era when the average height barely reached 165 centimeters. But his proportions were haunting. Narrow shoulders, a small head, and feet that were tiny for such a height. The cobblers who crafted his boots were kept under strict surveillance so that no one would discover the emperor's secret. Museum-preserved top boots confirm it. They are size 38 to 39. If the true Tsar was indeed sent to the Bastille, his replacement would have had to possess the exact same anomalies. The probability of a match across 3 such rare traits is near zero. Either Peter remained himself, or his substitution was prepared by forces whose capabilities were beyond the comprehension of that time. Yet if physiology says it's him, why did his actions scream occupation? Peter returned as a ruthless despot, determined to burn away the old Russia with a branding iron. Are you ready to find out how taxes on bathhouses and coffins turned the country into a giant labor camp? Peter built cities on marshes and taxed everything, from beards to oak coffins. He acted more like an efficient manager of colonial forces than a traditional sovereign. For the common people, his reforms felt like the coming of the Antichrist, sparing neither Russian blood nor the Russian soul. His methods of modernization were excessively cruel. Taxes on bathhouses and faith signaled the state's intrusion into the most intimate aspects of daily life, while the shaving of beards was perceived as the destruction of the image of God. The construction of St. Petersburg on a foundation of bones and the relocation of the capital from Moscow looked like a deliberate dismantling of the national code. Peter shattered traditions so fiercely it was as if they were loathsome to him. It was this fanatical hatred that birthed the legend of the substitution. It was easier for people to believe in a German impostor than in the ruthlessness of their own Tsar. But was this cruelty the result of a body swap or a cold, calculated strategy? From a pragmatist's perspective, Peter understood that without a radical leap forward, Russia would be torn apart by its neighbors. Did he have any other path but to become a stranger among his own people for the sake of the country's survival? Peter was not replaced physically, he was replaced ideologically. Imagine the shock of a young man, raised amidst boyar intrigues, who suddenly glimpsed the future in the docks of Amsterdam. Europe became more than just a place of study for him. It was a drug of progress, after which old Moscow seemed like the depths of the Middle Ages. Upon his return, Peter realized that Russia was a colossus with feet of clay. While the Swedes forged steel and the Dutch ruled the seas, the Kremlin bickered over ranks and titles. His reforms were dictated not by German hatred, but by a cold, clinical fear of the inevitable war. He understood. Either the country would traverse the path of centuries in a single decade, or it would be wiped off the map. The authoritarian style, the shaving of beards, and the Western assemblies were not the whims of an impostor, but a surgical operation performed without anesthesia. Peter was cauterizing the old consciousness that hindered the construction of factories and a navy. He appeared as an outsider because his planning horizon stretched centuries ahead, while the elite could see no further than their own estates. But if Peter was so radical, why did the old guard remain silent? Did the powerful boyars, capable of poisoning a Tsar over a sidelong glance, submissively bow their heads before this German? Or is there a more cynical imperial secret hidden within that silence? Even if a German agent had taken the throne, it was damnably profitable for the elite. A controlled Tsar is the dream of any oligarch. But Peter was anything but quiet. Why then did the power brokers of the time, like Romodanovsky, not raise an outcry about a substitution? The answer is simple. They were either in on the take, or they feared the truth more than the lie. Proponents of the substitution theory forget one thing. Peter returned with loyal comrades. Would Menshikov or Lefort really have failed to notice an outsider? On the other hand, the new Peter opened unprecedented social elevators. It was under him that the low-born Alexashka Menshikov became a most serene prince. The old nobility also had much to lose. Romodanovsky, who ruled the country in the Tsar's absence, could have crushed any impostor. If he remained silent, it meant the man on the throne was a Romanov he recognized. Or perhaps the fear of the torture chambers of the Preobrazhensky Prikaz, where Peter personally conducted interrogations, paralyzed the will of even the boldest. The elite chose survival and privilege, closing their eyes to the sovereign's eccentricities for the sake of the future empire's brilliance. And yet, there remains a witness whose intuition cannot be deceived by torture or money. A woman's heart. What did Anna Mons truly know, and why did her years-long affair leave no clues for the conspiracy theorists? It is time to deliver the final verdict. The legend of the substitution is not the delusion of a madman, but the collective cry of a people's soul whose world was destroyed overnight. It was easier for people to believe that their legitimate sovereign was languishing in captivity than to accept the monstrous truth, that their own Tsar could be so cold and ruthless toward his subjects. The impostor Peter I theory is the greatest psychological defense mechanism in history. To a person of the 17th century, he became the Antichrist, destroying the sacred bond between the ruler and the people. Shaving beards, taxing bathhouses, and forced dancing. In the traditional consciousness, these were not progress, but the end of the world. The formula, "the Tsar is not real," allowed people to maintain loyalty to the very idea of authority. As if to say, the true Peter is kind, while this German is the one committing atrocities. Yet the facts are stubborn. His unique anatomy and the testimonies of those closest to him confirm that Peter remained himself. He made a mental leap into another dimension, leaving the people in the past. He did not swap his identity. He swapped the very essence of the country, transforming Boyar Russia into a cold empire. Who was he? A great surgeon who saved the country, or the first agent of influence who erased our identity? The answer is hidden in the shadows of the past. But the mystery remains. Why, after 300 years, are we still looking for a catch in his great deeds? History is not just lines in textbooks. It is the collective memory of a people, whispers around corners, and strange inconsistencies in the archives. Today we have followed the trail of one of the most daring legends. Perhaps your view of the Bronze Horseman will never be the same again. Was Peter physically replaced? Most likely not. But he became a changeling in spirit, severing the bond with his ancestors for the sake of the glamour of European storefronts. This was the most grandiose and painful transformation in history, an echo of which can still be heard today. Now that the masks have been dropped and the facts laid out, the choice is yours. Believe the official chronicles or seek the Iron Mask in the labyrinths of the past. Remember, history is cunning, and it reveals its primary secrets only to those who know how to look past the ceremonial portraits. What do you think? Was Peter a genius or an impostor? Share your theories in the comments, hit the like button, and subscribe to the channel. Ahead of us lie mysteries that will make your skin crawl. See you in the next episode.